Alright, so despite what the title might say, I'm fully aware that this manga that I'm about to talk about is pretty average at best, but enjoyment and quality are two completely different things. In fact, the next video I'll be uploading after this one is going to be a video on that exact topic, so look forward to that if you're interested in it. But anyway, the topic of this video is a manga that I recently, as of recording, I finished last night. Well, as I just said, have just finished. And it's a manga that I personally really enjoyed. What is that manga? Well, it's a shoujo manga that goes by the name of Missions of Love. Now, because I hate that English title, like, a lot, and also because it's vastly different to the Japanese title, I'll be referring to it by its abbreviated title, which is Batsushina. The full Japanese title is Watashi ni Batsubatsu Shinasai, or Watashi ni Shinasai. There you are. If you want to just hear what it was, go have a look for yourself. There'll be a link to get it yourself on Bookwalker, because that's where I got it. Not sponsored, I wish I was, but I'm not. There'll be a link to it to go get it yourself in the description below. So, what is Batsushina about? Well, it's about a girl who writes cell phone novels. Yeah, if you don't know what a cell phone novel is, well, it's a novel that's written on the phone using the character limit of text messages. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's a concept that doesn't really exist over here in the West of using the character limit of a text message or a tweet to write a novel. Very strange. And as such, chapters of cell-phone novels are very short. But anyway, we have our main character who writes these cell-phone novels under the pseudonym of Yupina, which is not the best name for hiding her real identity, because her name is Himuro Yukina, and she is a third year in junior high school. She is 15, I believe. That would make her. If them being under the age of 16 is not for you, well, look, I'm sorry. You could just live with it. Anyway, so this manga is a romance, but how do we get there? Well, Yukina is very isolated in her class due to her eyes. She is considered to have scary eyes, and, well, a lot of people believe that she glares at people all the time, when in reality, all she's doing is observing them to use them as material for her current cell phone novel. And as such, people don't really like her because they think she's mean because of the way she's looking at them, and has garnered herself the nickname Yuki Onna, which, if you don't know what a Yuki Onna is, well, it's a Japanese yokai that goes around in snowy areas and kills people, particularly men. So, Yukina, one day, is looking for new material because people want her to write about romance in her current cell phone novel. And she has no idea how to, because she's never experienced it. She could write about someone else's, but it wouldn't be good enough, because she can't project her characters onto someone else. So, because the main character of her cell phone novel is, well, based on herself. But anyway, so she sees all the people coming to class, and then the most popular boy in school is late. But he apologizes to the teacher and passes things off. All the girls in the class swoon, except for Yukina. The whole class goes, "Ah, he's so great." Whereas Yukina, in her head, simply calls him boring. But why does she find him boring? Well, we will find out soon enough. Anyway, as the manga progresses, we see a girl ask this very popular boy, Shigure, Kitami Shigure, out because she likes him. And well, he unfortunately declines, as he is too focused on his studies to have a relationship. As she walks away, he smirks to himself, takes out his student notebook, and ticks off something. He then bumps into Himuro-san, or Yukina, when walking away from the scene where he was asked out, and tries to hit on her, to which she just shrugs him off because she couldn't care less about the single most fake person she's ever met, simply calling him boring because his face is always the same. He then walks off. However, Yukina notices something on the ground. A student handbook. Shigure's student handbook, and inside is a list of all the girls in his class, all but one ticked off. And not only that, all but one have their name written somewhere else, with the details of when, how, and why they all asked Shigure out. And all of a sudden, our main character has the perfect way to learn about romance, quote unquote, to blackmail this guy into teaching her about it. And as such, romance drama shit ensues. And from that, you're probably thinking, wow, this is going to be pretty trashy. And that's what I thought as well. But it actually isn't. At the start of the manga, it's very heavily focused on these quote-unquote missions that Yukina gives to Shigure, like, hold my hand, or the like, because, well, she doesn't know any of that. So she can incorporate it into her novel. However, it slowly evolves and develops beyond that into something much, much more as we introduce to more characters, such as Yukina's cousin and childhood friend, Shigure's childhood friend, and much later on, spoilers technically, Shigure's brother and his family. And this really, really gets interesting pretty quickly. When you get past like the testing the waters to see if the manga will be allowed to carry on or if it's going to get cut, as soon as we get to the point where the plot is allowed to come into its own and develop, it gets really, really interesting. Or at least it did for me. There's a point later on where it does stagnate a little bit, but that's fine because when it gets past that, it's about one volume where it does that. When it gets past that, it gets really good again really quickly. So there's only really one point for me that I found stagnant and of a lower quality than the rest of the manga. It's 19 volumes, which isn't too many. There's about 4 to 5 chapters per volume, which you might hear that and be like, that's quite a bit. It comes out to there are about 74 chapters, and then there's a couple bonus chapters every now and then. Yeah. So, but for me, I really like this manga. But why? Well, I couldn't really tell you. I just really enjoyed reading it. Honestly, it probably has to do with it being a lot of my firsts. To put it into context, this was the first manga that I bought because all my other manga I'd read on the Shonen Jump app, which I just pay a subscription for. Whereas this was manga that I bought. It's the first volumes of manga that I've bought. It's the first manga I've read, not on the Shonen Jump app, that doesn't have an anime based on it. It's also the first manga that I went into completely blind and read. It's also the first manga that I've read completely start to finish without anything, telling me to go read it, or without some way of finding out about it through an anime. It's also the first shoujo manga that I've read. So my enjoyment of this probably comes from the fact that I don't have anything else much to base it on. But even beyond that, I did really just enjoy the story and the characters involved, because it is a very character-driven story, the entire thing, pretty much. And character dramas are, well, my shit, so of course I was going to like this. But as I said at the beginning, this manga is pretty average, but I really enjoy it. So maybe you will, maybe you won't. That's the whole reason why it's average, because some people enjoy it, some people don't. It's not like Berserk, where if you don't enjoy it, there's something wrong with you. That isn't an unpopular opinion. That's just fact. Back on topic. So yeah, for me, Batsuna is probably my favorite shoujo manga. But as I said, it's the only shoujo that I've read. I've watched shoujo anime like Kaichou Maid-sama, Chihaya Furu, and a few others. But Batsuna, for me, is my favorite. And, well, that's just how it is. Maybe when I read more, I'll come back and I'll retcon this. I'll, have my opinion changed. Or maybe if you have some other really good shoujo manga that you recommend I read, to prove me wrong in saying that Batsuna is really good, even though it's average, I think it's really good. If you think that is just straight up wrong, and that there are shoujo manga that would, set me straight, if you will, then leave them in comments below. But if you want some really kind of, again, character-driven, somewhat spicy, shoujo romance with a lot of drama, you will really enjoy this manga. As average as it is, because it's, from what I've heard, it uses a lot of shoujo tropes. Now, I don't know a lot of the shoujo tropes. Why? Because I've not read a lot of shoujo. That's just how it is. I'm not going to know what the tropes are because I haven't read any. It's not like shonen where I know a lot of the shonen tropes because I've read and watched a lot of shonen stuff. But beyond that, I recommend you give this manga a quick read. Read the first chapter, first volume maybe, and decide whether it's for you or not. Because I think if you give this manga a fair shot, you will genuinely enjoy it. But anyway, I've been Animosity, you've been you, and I hope to catch you all next time for another video. Ta-ta for now.